Hello, Kinaway members. My name is Katani. I have to record this again just quickly before we get into the webinar because when I originally recorded this intro with Damien, people were next to us speaking pretty loudly. So I thought I would just quickly do this one again. So I'd just like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land in which I'm coming to you all from, and where I came to you from when I recorded, which is the same place. But I just wanted to acknowledge the traditional owners, past, present, and emerging. Damien also echoed these same sentiments. But yeah, I just wanted to re-record this bit because it's important. I really hope you enjoy this pre-recorded episode. Next week, we'll be getting back to our lives. But yeah, you can expect to see some more of these in the weeks to come. So yeah, just leave comments below and let us know how you like these. And also, if you could, please let us know what time suits you all best, because I'd really like to be able to make these webinars available to you all at the best time. So thank you for tuning in again. We appreciate you watching, and I acknowledge all the traditional owners of this land, past, present, and emerging. So first off, Damien, is where are you from?
Yeah, sure. So I actually, my mob's Gulbenbangi, sorry, based on the mid-north coast of New South Wales, Maxwell, and Nambucca Heads area. I actually grew up, though, just down the road from there in Kempsey, which is Dungutty country. So Kempsey on the mid-north coast of New South Wales. I grew up there from probably when I was about maybe 3 or 4 years of age. Went to primary school in a little school there, about 40 people in from kinder through to year 6. Then went on to high school, where went to a school of from year 7s to year 12s of about 1,000 students in total there at Kempsey High School. So yes, grew up in Kempsey. Yes,
Represent.
that's it. And then I basically grew up there with my family, my parents, and I've got 2 younger siblings. So yeah.
So you're the old boy of the family.
I'm the guinea pig. Yes, I'm the one they experiment on as see how they go for the younger ones.
So I remember talking with you earlier, and you did do a move at some point in life up to sunny Queensland.
Yeah, so basically how it all worked was I grew up in Kempsey, went to high school, then I went. I was good at school through all my years, through primary and high school. So it's kind of inevitable or the expectation was that I was always going to go to university. So I actually finished high school at the age of 18 and moved down to Newcastle to study. And I'd done a Bachelor of Commerce down there as an accountant in accounting down at University of Newcastle. I was down there for 10 years for both work. After I finished studies, I also then worked down there. So I was there for a total of about 10 years. So
you're a local, a lot of places it seems.
Yes. Well, the next step then after that was I was working. So I'd done a couple of jobs after I finished university. I worked in a couple of accounting firms working as a tax or working in tax and business services. And then I left there to go to Brisbane. So my family and all that had actually moved from Kempsey up to Brisbane or the Brisbane area. There was a lot of work at the time happening up there, and I thought a change is as good as a holiday, and decided to head up that way myself. My youngest brother had also started to have his family, so decided to move up that way and be a part of that as well. So, and there was a lot of work happening at the time. That was around end of 2007.
And that, I think I remember you mentioning that was a financially unstable year. So I'm not the finance person, Damien is, so he can tell you all.
Yeah, look, part of the reason why I did actually move up to Brisbane was we actually had a family earth moving business that I was part of, and we went up there. We established the business in 2007 or early 2007. My father moved up and took the equipment that we had up there with us, and it was around that time, the end of 2007. We obviously had the global financial crisis, so. I can relate to all those businesses out there because in respect to the fact if something happens that's out of your control, like global matter, we've obviously had in 2020, where you have no control over it and it does impact your business. Same wise for the global financial crisis with our business, we seen a big downturn in the demand for earth moving equipment for projects. A lot of projects were taken offline. And it became very competitive and very hard to get through it. So we actually sold the business in 2012. So we got out of it. We didn't. We were fortunate in the fact that we didn't lose money per se. So yeah, we were very fortunate that way. So. I finished up with the business. Then I decided, okay, what am I going to do from there? And I actually decided that I would look at some other business opportunities. So I got to know some other people while I was up there. I became involved with, at the time in 2010, with the Southeast Queensland Indigenous Chamber of Commerce. So I started to learn, that's where I actually started to learn more about or become involved in the actual Aboriginal or Indigenous business space or sector. Before, for me, that was just mainstream. That's what I knew and that's what I understood and been involved with for some time. Hi, I'm Damien Foley from Foley Business Management, and we're here at the Click Digital Expo 2017 talking about all things technology and business. So this is a fantastic way for me to develop my skills and knowledge around benefiting your business. Yeah, so I got involved with a couple of business. So we had a couple of business partners. We were looking to start an event management business. So it looked starting an event management business that involved working with as Aboriginal business owners, running events such as conferences and things like that as an Aboriginal business. And including things like the Welcome to Country and having Aboriginal speakers come along and do presentations as well. That didn't take off, and these are the things you learn along the way. We decided at the point, the other partners decided to not continue. So I moved on to another business that I was involved with, which was Foley Business Management, which was my background is accounting. So I started to get involved with looking at bookkeeping and consulting on that side. That sort of didn't really take off too much either because what I learned at that time was you really need to have a portfolio of clients, ideally, to really step out on your own and to go with it. So,
I was just going to say, I noticed like with Damien, to you guys watching, he's just got an innate understanding of what his skills are and what he is passionate about. And with his story, he just follows, he trusts in those skills and life is just will unfold before him. And that's what I kind of hear with these, he learns something along the way each place. But we were talking earlier and you did at some point end up in Melbourne. So how did one go from Brisbane to Melbourne? What was that journey?
Look, the outcome of that was that I'd been involved with a couple of jobs in the meantime while I was in Brisbane. So part of that was working with Indigenous Accounts Australia, which I worked for both the two big professional accounting bodies, CPA Australia and Chartered Accountants Australia New Zealand. And so I was involved with the universities there, and I sort of then started to realise I hadn't been and done any formal education in a while since I'd been at high school. So that was a good 15 years prior. It's at university, so 15 years prior. So as part of that, I actually went and as part of my professional development for business, I actually done a program, the Murray program with the Melbourne Business School. It was recommended to me by some other people that had already done the program. So I had the opportunity to do that in 2016. I did the program with the Murray program with Melbourne Business School. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I decided that I wanted to actually go back and do formal studies and I wanted to do an MBA. And if I was going to do it anywhere, I was going to do it at Melbourne Business School. So that's what led me here to Melbourne was I basically jumped on a flight. So I was trying to get some jobs. I had nothing lined up when I came down here as far as work. I had nowhere to actually live when I got down here. And so I arrived down here. I was staying in Airbnbs. I was going for job interviews to let people know that I was actually here in Melbourne, whereas going for job interviews in Brisbane for Melbourne wasn't as attractive to employers. So I let them know that I was down here. And the big thing that I noticed with getting a job down here in Melbourne is you really need to have, it's all about the network or referral as part of that employment, whereas before in other locations it was all about, I just had to show my CV or my resume and go for an interview. So yeah, I landed down here with and I signed up without having a place to live while I was staying in Airbnb and no job, and I enrolled myself into doing the part-time MBA at Melbourne Business School while doing it.
That's called a hustle, kids. And trusting in yourself, see? So life in Melbourne, what were your first impressions when you got here and say you got your job, something a little bit stable? So what were your first impressions of Melbourne?
First impressions of Melbourne coming from Brisbane, cold and wet.
I'm a Darwin girl, you guys, so I agree.
Look, that was I came down in July, so it was cold, it was wet. I had to get used to wearing a jacket that I would ordinarily wear at night 2 weeks of the year in Brisbane during the day, get used to the wind and the rain. So that was the first adjustment that I had. Now, also coming to Melbourne is that I didn't actually really, besides the couple of people that I knew or associates that I knew through work or professionally, I didn't actually have any family or friends that were based down here in Melbourne. So that was new as well. I had to develop a social network as well as my professional network down here in Melbourne. So that wasn't easy, I have to admit. So
we were talking earlier and we were discussing how Indigenous mob, like I'm sure all of you watching can relate, but when you're away from family, that can really it can feel pretty tricky when you don't have that instant connection to family. So I was wondering, Damien, what were some of the strategies that you decided to explore or use to keep in social contact with people that you care about?
Yeah, look, the main thing that I did was I was, always talking to my family, my mum and my dad, at least once a week. They were always checking in on me to see how I was going. Usually it was the other way around. They were calling me to check in. The other one was that I actually had a really good friend that I would ordinarily catch up with when I was in Brisbane. So what we actually did was, because I didn't know anyone down here, but as a sort of a social thing for me was we would organise a virtual brunch. So on a Sunday morning, we would call each other up, go out. I'd go out to a local cafe and explore the local cafes down here in Melbourne because there's so many. And I'd sit down and, order my meal, the breakfast and a coffee, and I'd be sitting there talking to her virtually through a phone with my headsets on while having my brunch, and we'd be having a conversation as if we were, they were sitting directly across from me. Talking about what we were reading and where we enjoyed at the brunch and what it looked like, and sharing that experience as well. So just a virtual brunch or a virtual catch up, it worked really well.
Yeah,
So,
I think I might have to steal that idea. Exploring, you're getting out of the house, but also people, you can connect with people who aren't there in person. I think that's
it.
so good for your mental health as well and
Yeah.
emotional, especially when you've moved somewhere new.
Yeah. Look, the other thing that I probably did was to try and build the social network down here as well. Is when I did arrive here in Melbourne, back in Brisbane, because when I was new up there, I found out just by chance or coincidence, I found out about this platform or app or website that called Meetup. So I originally was introduced to it as a means of networking for business, but I actually found out later on that it actually had a social side to it as well, where people could go along and attend events and meet other people as part of that for social purposes. So I started doing that down here in Melbourne as well. I was living in the CBD as far as all on the inner fringes of the CBD. So I'd go to these meetups on mainly, say, a Friday night, and I'd meet these people, and there were some people that I started to get along with well and meet up at regular meetups that I would go to. But what I found out later was they were working in the CBD on a Friday, they'd finish work, and then they'd come to the meetup. But then when it came to a weekend, they actually, where they lived wasn't in around the CBD. They lived, uh, some distance away from the CBD. So, they were living in Werribee or Point Cook, so places that, as far as distance from the CBD was quite a long way. So being able to have a social group of friends that I could build from doing the meetup didn't actually work. So I found that to be difficult. From that, I did meet some great people. Just the social the distance wasn't inhibited to that. So yeah. The other one I used, and I did talk to you about this before, was and people, yes, exactly. People probably might laugh at this, but it was very hard to meet up. Was when I started to work and also do my studies. It was a designated spot at a designated time at a designated location. If I had work or study commitments, I couldn't go to those. So I found it very hard to even go to meetups on that basis. So what I actually started to use was I actually started using dating apps.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, look, I started using dating apps too, and I made it very clear in my profile for the dating app that look, I'm trying to find friends. I don't have a lot of time with work and study commitments that for a relationship wise. But look, I'm looking to make friends and to meet new people because I'm new to Melbourne, and so actually from that I did meet some people, and from that. Being able to read their profiles, you're actually able to learn a little bit about them and see if you had things in common. Like, do they like to go to art galleries or exhibitions, to museums? Did they like to go dining out and have a drink or things like that, or go for a brunch or go looking for cafes? So I was able to actually make a lot of friends from just doing that. So
No, everybody watching, I agree with Damien. I've made many friends from dating apps, and I think we've just come up with enough idea right now. We need a friends, not dating friends app, because people are vulnerable on those things. So like you kind of get to know them a little bit quickly because they're trying to put that out there for people. But yeah, I thought that was such a funny point and very true. I had a very similar experience to Damien in coming to Melbourne as well. Cool. So now you're come from Brisbane. You're here in Melbourne. You've taken your paths. Were there any other milestones that happened in Melbourne before we kind of arrived here at the present day?
yeah, look, as far as my goals or expectations was that, as I said, look, I came to Melbourne with the intent and purpose to do an MBA, and that was the reason and my goal and focus for coming here. Um, but in saying that, all through my life, I've been very community oriented. Growing up, my parents have always been involved in community projects, whether it was with my school or with things that were going on in the community. So was very community minded, and growing up, I actually was, as part of trying to work out what I wanted to do for when I was growing up. I watched a show called I wanted to help people. So that was my goal. I wanted to help people as far as a job when I was growing up. So I was trying to decide what I want. And when I was young, I was thinking, oh well, maybe a doctor. A doctor helps people, or a police officer. They help people. And
what was the show that you used to watch that
yeah,
gave you this idea?
I was watching a country practice one day, and they had an episode on where they were talking, where a doctor was there, and they were talking about their work, and somebody made the comment about how good it must be to be a doctor, to go and play golf and make all this money. And the doctor actually turned around and said, "Look, I just lost a patient on my surgery table today," and that for me went, as a 8 or 9 years of age, I went, okay, I don't think I want to be a doctor.
A pretty rude awakening sometimes.
It was. And then the other one was, I thought, as part of being a police officer, I wasn't the most athletic person, but I was very good at school. So I thought, okay, well, I want to work in police officers around the law. Maybe I'll become a lawyer. And so I remember my dad asked me, so what do you want to be when you grow up? And I said, oh, well, I want to be a lawyer. And I think that was about 9 or 10 years of age. And so from there on in, whenever my dad introduced me to anyone that he knew, he said, oh, here's my son, Damien. He wants to grow up and he wants to be a lawyer. So I thought, okay, well, that's what I'm going to be. Now, what actually happened was I sort of did have that goal and intention. I was doing well. I did do well at school, and I went through, and what happened was I was doing a program in high school in year 11, and what happened was, it's called Young Achievement Australia program, and my mate turned around and said to me, oh, let's do that because we can make some money from doing it. I went, oh, okay, great, I'm going to make some money, and I get it as an extra credit towards what I'm doing. So what it actually is Young Achievers, or Young Achievement Australia, what it was or is, it's where a group of Year 11 students, can also be university students that they offer it to. They come together for a year, they establish a company, they get investment from shares, they decide on a product, they make the product, they sell the product. Ideally, at the end, they make a profit, and then they distribute those profits back to the shareholders. I'd done that program. I thoroughly loved it. I was also doing subjects at the time at high school that involved commerce. So, and the mentors who were doing the program with us, they were an accounting firm. So I got involved with that, and I went, okay, I know what I want to do in my life. I was, 17, I think at the time, 16 or 17. I went, I want to have my own business. I want to have my own business, and I'm going to go to university, get my degree to become an accountant, to learn about business, and then later on to have my own business. And that's been one of my goals since I was 16 or 17, was to have my own business. And that was going to be my career path, was to become an accountant and have my own business from there, by going along that pathway. And that's how it came to be.
That's so, I love that. I think it's a really brave thing to want to do. Like, this is not a Katani episode, but I had family and business, and I always saw how, demanding it is. And so I've always had an understanding of, like, it's a really amazing dream and goal, and it's a lot of hard work. So I can really respect that.
It is. Look, and my family as well. I remember we'd be up at 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning. My parents would do leather work, and we'd go to the local markets and set up there at 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning to sell the leather products that they made. And so from that, I actually, now that I think back, that's where I actually started to learn about how to do selling, how to make sales, is from, I was, behind the stall and helping my parents out to sell the products. So, yeah.
So from an early age, you could see that hard work had to be put in.
That's
but
it.
you probably got the taste from there. So now now you're at Kinaway. So how did you get involved in Kinaway on your journey so far? I feel like I can probably phrase that better, but I'm just going to keep going. So we're in Melbourne. You've been in Melbourne, and then you find Kinaway. How did that happen? And yeah, can you give us a little?
Yeah, sure. So obviously, I came down here with the intent for doing the MBA, and I came down and I started talking with people as part of my network um, to try and find some work while I was down here. And as part of that network, I actually ran into somebody that I knew who's actually a board member of Kinaway, and they told me about oh, you should go along and find out the new offices and check out the new offices. And I said, oh, yeah, no worries. I obviously knew of Kinaway when I was involved with South East Queensland Indigenous Chamber of Commerce. So I came down to also check out the offices. And as part of that, I was talking to the general manager that was before Scott McCartney. And I was just talking to him about business and, what I've learned from the experience and what I was doing as far as my background and experience and how I've been in business myself and how I was come down here to do the MBA. And as part of that, a couple of days later, I get a phone call from them and they said, look, we've got a position coming up. We'd love for you to come in and have an interview and see if you'd be, if you're interested in the job. And so I actually came in, I had the interview, I had some other interviews with some other places as well. And the outcome was that I came to work for Kinaway.
And fate worked her magic. And
yes.
now we are sitting here having this conversation. So speaking about fate and some big ideas and, let's get into that right now. So what do you think, I don't know, this is a pretty broad question, but I'll ask it anyway. So looking back and thinking about everything you've learned, what would you say your, I wouldn't call them goals, what are some life kind of a lesson or a motto or something that you can say has helped you on your way to where you are today?
Yeah, again, I've always been about helping people, or part of my work is so my little mantra is make money by doing good. So that's something I like to do. So it's looking at how I can use my skills, my experience, my knowledge, and take all of that. I can earn a living from it, but in the same instance, I can help other people and do good in the world. And so, look, that's always been something that I've done. And look, that's what I want to do. I want to take what I'm learning from my past experience of from accounting, from owning a business myself, and take what I'm learning also, what I'm already learning from doing the part-time MBA, and applying that and using that to help other Aboriginal businesses with what they're doing and to improve and develop them. And that's what I'm really doing. And I'm doing that with Kinaway itself. So I'm loving and enjoying that aspect of it. So, yeah.
That is such a perfect, it's such a perfect role for you to fall into that can let you enjoy, what you're doing for a living. Because we all need stability and security, but if you can actually enjoy it, that's all that we can really ask for, really. So I guess while we're on the topic, what is your role here at Kinaway, Damien?
My role at Kinaway, look, I come with several I've come with several titles along the way: relationship manager or business development manager. But look, my ultimate role is very much at the moment member facing or client facing. So working with the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander businesses who are our members and helping them to improve and develop for growth. I also get involved with some internal projects inside of Kinaway as far as looking at research and surveys, and that all then contributes towards working with other organisations about where they can provide services, and we can work with them to improve the outcomes for Aboriginal businesses here in Victoria. And yeah, it's been very rewarding in the last 12 to 18 months that I've been working here. And look, I've enjoyed working under also the CEO, Scott McCartney. I've learned so much from working with him. His ability to be able to sit down and have that relationship, build rapport, and things like that. It's and look, I also work with also James Brown, our economic broker. So I've been working with him, and
not the singer James Brown,
not the singer, no, our economic broker. And he's developed so much in the last 12 months since joining Kinaway, doing business reviews and using what he's learned from both myself and Scott, and what he's also learning from doing his current degree, where he's doing economics. So he's majoring in economics. So, and he's using that, and we're applying that. And again, we're using this all for the benefit of the Aboriginal businesses and applying it, and seeing the great outcomes that we're seeing from doing so.
Yeah, we got to help each other get up in this world. I love that too. Yep, it's our mob supporting mob.
That's it.
Yeah. Well, I have run out of questions. But if anyone watching has questions for Damien, please leave them below, and we will post all over our social medias. This is another pre-recorded video, so it's not like our usual live. So we will figure out how we're going to go about answering questions the next time. But I want everyone to say thank you to Damien. Yell at your screen. He'll hear it.
Thank you, everybody.
Yes, thank you for watching.
Thank you, Katani.
Thank you. And we'll catch you all again next time. See you, everybody.
Thanks, guys. Bye.